Did you know that there are two ways to have a spectator camera? You can do this by either emoting with your camera against a wall or by throwing a Nova Bomb and then immediately charging a grenade with your HUD turned off. This is our best way to get what's called theater mode, and it, alongside 12 other suggestions I gathered, are some of the most wanted updates to Destiny 2. Some of these have existed in some fashion but never became a permanent feature, and others are ideas the community have been asking for a very long time. Let's start with the feature that Bungie has danced around since the Prison of Elders, a Horde mode. The idea of this mode would be endless waves of enemies that get progressively harder. The longer you survive, the higher your score and the better your loot. I think that this would not only add a significant amount of replay value to PvE activities, just like raids and Grandmaster Nightfalls, but it could also easily fit into Destiny's lore using the Infinite Forest. If you are new to Destiny, the Infinite Forest was a simulated location that you could access from Mercury, which has since been put in the Destiny content vault. When Mercury ever becomes a selectable location again, I could easily see the Vanguard suggesting it as a form of training exercise like the Crucible. We could even go the extra mile and make it procedurally generated with choices between buffs that change every time you play, similar to the genre of game called roguelikes such as Enter the Gungeon, Hades, or Spelunky. When you boot up Destiny for the first time or create a new character, you are greeted with a character customization screen. As far as these types of customization tools go, Destiny's character editor is surprisingly thorough. Also, most of Destiny's character options look quite pleasing. Well, most of them. Once you create your character, there is no going back. And if you made a mistake when creating your character or didn't catch something because of a different camera angle or different lighting, you are stuck with your mistake until you reset and make a new character. Even though this is a small change for gameplay reasons, it would be nice to have a vendor in the tower that allows us to change our face like how games like GTA or Borderlands does. Dedicated servers have been an ongoing request to improve the consistency of Destiny. Destiny currently relies on what is called peer-to-peer networking. In a peer-to-peer network, computers on the network are equal, with each workstation providing access to resources and data. This is a simple type of network where computers are able to communicate with one another and share what is on or attached to their computers with other users. In other words, every player system has to talk with every other player system. This can cause major problems if one player system isn't communicating fast enough with others. While this would be mostly beneficial for PvP, it would also make PvE experiences less prone to unusual behaviors and could allow a larger, more network straining activities such as 12-man raids. If you're enjoying this list so far, consider hitting the subscribe button and leaving this video a like. It takes a lot of work to make these, and it would mean a lot to me and the rest of DDT. This next one I already mentioned, but it's worth going more in depth: theater mode. Theater mode is a feature primarily referenced in Halo where players could operate a floating camera or replay previous games from other perspectives. Destiny's community is one of the most creative communities I have ever been a part of, and it's mostly due to how much Bungie encourages it through things like Movie of the Week competitions or fan-made art galleries. So it's a huge shame that the community can never push into movie-like creations unless you are a whiz at 3D modeling. I am sure this would require huge resource investment from Bungie, but even having the option to select a spectator mode in something like a private match could massively improve competitive and creative creations for the community. Speaking of creativity, back in the days of the Menagerie, players had their own sort of bases where they could display their achievements called the Tribute Hall. While this tribute hall was limited, it gave us tools to show off what we have done, and it gave us a shooting gallery to test our weapons on PvE enemies. I would love to see this idea reinstated in Destiny 2 and taken even further, where players could almost entirely decorate their bases to their choosing, displaying weapons on walls, statistics on placards, and, of course, display the heads of bosses they've killed. Of course, players would be able to visit each other's bases to show off what they've done or demonstrate their layout to the rest of the world. Coming back to Crucible features, new maps have been one of the most requested additions to PvP outside of sandbox changes and new game modes. It has been about 900 days since a totally new map was created for the game.
Yes, you there with the face. Don't write that comment. I know. As of the time this was being edited, the final touch is being added. Bungie announced they're going to add a new map that is in the theme of the newest raid. Yes, this is just very slightly out of date by a singular day. So that comment that you're about to write, I know. Everybody else knows. You don't need to make it. But thank you. I appreciate the concern. I'm going to let the rest of the video play because it's still a little ridiculous how long it took for it to finally, get here. But yeah, you don't need to write that comment. I'm very, very much aware. Thank you.
And even though we recently got Vostok and Eternity back, these were maps we had before, and even still, these are maps that are virtually identical. I think a lot of players were hoping for a Europa-themed map when Beyond Light launched, and hopefully the new maps we've been promised in future seasons live up to the hype. At the very least, it would be nice to be able to play some of the vaulted maps in private matches. One of the main complaints about higher difficulty PvE activities is that it reaches a point where players are powerful enough that the activities become more of an exercise in monotony rather than a legitimate challenge. Contest mode replacing master mode not only removes the scaling issues of your player eventually just simply bullying enemies from sheer light level, but also restricts loadouts so some of your more cheesy strategies can't be abused. I'm certainly no PvE expert, but off of the continued suggestion of it and the general apathy towards master mode, I think it's safe to say this would be a welcome change. In Destiny 1, as a special mode called SRL, or Sparrow Racing League, Guardians could race head-to-head with their Sparrows on custom-built tracks. While this feature was never the most popular, it provided a way for players to sort of refresh themselves from the standard shooting aliens in the face, and gave us special items such as unique Sparrow horns, Sparrow buffing armor, and of course, new Sparrows. But maybe we could take this vehicle competition even further. For a game that was built from the foundations of Halo, it's amazing that space combat hasn't been included in some way. The biggest concern, of course, is that currently ships are purely cosmetic item, and making them compete could potentially introduce pay to win. But I think with careful design, aerial combat could be added to Destiny and could greatly enrich campaigns and PvP missions alike. Along with ideas of character customization from earlier is Transmog. I would say the current Transmog system is quite good, but it can be a bit frustrating having to hope for an armor piece to drop just so you can complete your Guardian's outfit. It would be fantastic as a feature to be able to simply purchase world loot or past seasonal legendary armor blueprints from A to 1 for some glimmer and legendary shards, and of course Transmog material, so that you can finally get your Guardian strip just the way you like it. Look, let's be honest, there are some maps that are just not as popular as others. Maps that make half the lobby groan as they load into them. Allowing players to vote on maps and even including more modes in regular playlist for voting too could allow more agency over your experience, and even allow those long rotating playlists such as Clash or even Supremacy some time in the sun. It's a bit frustrating when nearly every other PvP game has included this in some capacity, but of course, Destiny is a bit of a special experience as it's both PvE and PvP. As Destiny continues to expand, one issue the sandbox faces is old weapons and armors get less and less viable. Bungie has been making great strides in updating some of the old power balance of some of these older original exotics, but there are still well over a quarter of them at least that hardly get touched by the community. Having some of this old gear redesigned or simply buffed to make them more competitive would drastically diversify the sandbox for both PvP and PvE. For the last change on this list, this is something that we're starting to make some steps towards with the recent changes to how these weapons and armors drop, but the ability to auto dismantle blue and green gear as they get into our inventory would significantly reduce the amount of times that we're spending in the menu and give us more time to actually play the game. Recently, Bungie has made it to where if you are playing the more core playlist and you are on par with the power level for that season, you won't get any blue gear. Instead, you'll have a slightly increased chance of getting more legendary gear, but the blue gear still comes. A simple switch maybe in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen that just simply says dismantle blue gear would make it to where the gear that you picked up automatically dismantles into its materials, reducing the amount of time you're having to spend going back and forth between your postmaster and your inventory. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want more, I will leave a link in a pinned comment to another list that we've done sort of similar to this one. Thank you for liking and subscribing. Bless your faces, and deuces.